Hi, I'm Erik Asgeirsson, the CEO of CPA.com, and I'm with Barry Melancon, the CEO of the AICPA and CIMA. It's great to be with you, Barry. We're right now with a group of firms kicking off 2023. There's so many topics that we're discussing, Barry, but just a couple that are really striking is, you and I are gonna talk a little bit about, high-performing teams, high-performing management teams, and some of the key drivers that are helping them to really succeed. And when we're talking to these firms here this week and even reflecting back on digital CPA, what's striking now is that the high-performing teams, they're achieving much, much better results than average performing teams. And I think this is an important thing to reflect on. And how do they get to this high performance level? It's about investment and upskilling over many years. It's about digital transformation. It's about strategies. And I know this is something you've been thinking a lot about. So some of your thoughts on what's happening here.
Yeah, they're not only performing better, they're also happier, which is a very important part on the retention side, which is one of the data points that's coming out from a lot of firms in this space. First off, how to get there? It's not a snap your finger. This is a journey, and I think that firms of all different sizes are on that journey. One of the key components is that the generation of people entering workforces today, including entering our profession today, are very interested in good, constructive feedback to be better. And having people inside your firm that are good at that they can really deliver the right message, the constructive message to improve people, is sort of the starting point. And that's a hard thing to do. Not everybody has that skill. And so you have to sort of skill your people who are actually the supervisors to make sure that they have the capability of doing it. And then I think you have to look at the notion of really how do we deploy people into what they are doing. We just recently did a town hall with a practitioner that talked about how in tax season, for example, how they're deploying sort of almost a project management type of set of resources to help their professionals get to that higher level of providing competency work with their clients. And I think it's thinking about that real key component of what is a person really good at, what are their core competencies, and really making sure that's what they get to do. And the last point I would make is that probably sort of supports this different world we're in, which is flexibility and people working in different environments, that it really is not a sort of an answer for everyone, it's an answer for one. And it could be different than someone else as to how you actually get that higher performance, that higher productivity, and that happier employee.
Well, let's talk about two other elements that are, keys to these high-performing teams. One being digital transformation, and we've been talking for over a decade now in the move to the cloud, but it's really evolved beyond that now. And one thing that we're talking about is, being digital first. We talked about that in the recent town hall, and digital networks, and you're really making the technology part of the work process. So it's not just saying, okay, I'm going to move this technology solution from on-premise to in the cloud. It's thinking about the entire flow of your business service and making it digital.
Yeah, I think digital first is the right answer. It's really, if I was doing it today, and that's hard to do because that's a transformation activity, really, but it's a step back and saying, if it didn't exist, how do I do it today? We have a major project in the profession about reinventing the audit, and that was the premise of starting that project. It's called Dynamic Audit Solution, but it was, if we didn't have an audit today for private companies and we were creating it, what would it look like knowing all the things we know? And that's what you're talking about, in those environments. I think the other thing too that people don't talk about a lot in this is, I can go back to the beginning days of technology implementation into this profession. Let's call it the microcomputer era coming in. And it's always been this undercurrent that people have about fear in this process about, well, technology is going to displace my value as an individual. The opposite is actually the truth in that process. Technology elevates those competencies and that value because of how you actually deliver value to a client or an employer.
Absolutely. There's no worry now that technology is going to automate everybody out of a job. There's more work than we could ever imagine. And when you're thinking about really building success, it comes to this final point here that we've seen, firms really leaning in on, and this is the evolution of their business model, the evolution of their strategies. Because when you see a firm that's built out that digital-first tax practice, that's built the state-of-the-art client advisory services practice, they've really thought about this from a strategic standpoint. What services are, what niche area they're going to operate in, what's their staffing plan, what type of pricing model are they going to use, subscription billing. There's so many elements that go into building a successful digitally transformed practice that's beyond the technology, and that is something that is really, really critical for you to think about prior to just saying, okay, I want to move forward with the technology initiative.
Absolutely, and it's just not assuming that the business model of old is going to work with a technology solution around it. That's the really key. You have to step back from that. We've been talking for a long time, many, many, many years, about leading professionals, leading firms that are modifying their business models, this thinking on all of those elements you just said, from billing to personnel to technology to what niches that you serve, what services you deliver, et cetera. And that is really the science here, is stepping back and looking at it. I will say, despite having said it for many, many years, I think coming out of 2022 into 2023, I do think firms are more focused on that. I do think there are many more examples of that. Digital CPA was an example of that with the energy in the room. But people are thinking about that differently, that my firm is not just going to continue to operate, look like, shape like, leverage in the same way that it was because it was formed X number of years or decades ago. And that is really one of the key things I think that's happening in 2023.
Well, let's just close with one last topic, and that's the talent topic, Barry. And when you think about what we've just discussed around high performance, digital transformation, and strategies, what I've seen is when the firm or the employer has put those things into practice, it somewhat takes care of this culture issue, this engagement issue, even dramatically helps with retention. So you can talk about retention and culture, yes, but it's probably better to think about those fundamentals that we just discussed.
Well, I'll quote you on this because you always talk about people like to be on winning teams. Yeah. And so when teams are doing stuff uniquely or in an innovative way or bringing a new business model to the table, people get energized by that. I mean, let's be honest, we live in a world today that has a very significant human capital set of challenges, not just our profession, every industry, every profession, it's every corner of the globe has very significant human capital challenges, and there are lots and lots and lots and lots of reasons for that. There's an attitude additional in this country about people thinking differently about going to college at all. And again, COVID has had an impact. There's just a tremendous amount of factors here. It's a very, very complex set of facts. But when you have people, and you have people that you can put in winning situations and motivate them, and they see the advancement of their skill sets and their capabilities for the long term, and you embrace that with changes to a business model, you get a different type of retention equation. And for also ages, CPA firms particularly have always focused on, turnover is not a good outcome, it's a costly outcome. And so retention is a very important thing. And so you have a generation of people coming out of school today and have been out for a while that crave that sort of, that purpose, being able to communicate that and being able to develop their skills and competencies in an organization that's committed to do it. And I think that does address a lot of those points that you have. There's no panacea to fix everything with one thing, but it's in the right direction from that standpoint.
Well, Barry, thanks. Good to be with you here as we kick off 2023 and discuss, many of the things that we're seeing. So thanks for being with me.
Thank you, Eric. Happy New Year to you and to everyone that tunes into this, as we're still early enough in the new year to say that. So.
Absolutely.